The champagne glass slipped from my fingers the moment the phone buzzed. It didn't break, it just rolled across the table like it was deciding whose night to ruin. On the other end, my son didn't even say hello. "Mom, I need a favor," he began, the same tone he used at 16 when favor meant bail me out. I could hear waves crashing outside my new beach house, the dream I'd chased for 3 decades of 12-hour days, late flights, and polite boardroom wars. Tonight was supposed to be quiet, my first night of freedom after selling the company that had eaten my life. Instead, I found myself listening to my grown son explain how his wife's family was counting on spending their vacation in my home. 11 people, he said, like logistics were a kindness. Melissa already sent out the group text. For a second, I thought I'd misheard. 11 people. In the house I'd bought to finally have space for myself. The irony stung. I'd built an empire out of setting boundaries with clients, but apparently, I'd forgotten to teach my own child the word no. "Brandon," I said slowly, "you can visit, but this isn't a resort." Silence. Then, that calm, manipulative tone I knew too well. "It's selfish, Mom. You don't even need all that space. Honestly, Melissa's worried about you being alone down there. Maybe it's time to think about something more manageable. There's a senior community just off the coastal highway." The words hit harder than I expected. Not because of the insult, because of the confidence. My son had already decided I'd say yes, or that I'd be too tired to fight. Maybe I had been, once. But not anymore. I stepped out onto the deck. The Atlantic stretched out in front of me, endless and untamed, a mirror of the freedom I'd earned. I could still hear his voice through the open door, listing demands, making plans. It was the sound of someone who'd never learned that the person they were talking to didn't need them anymore. When he finally stopped talking, I said only this: "Come if you want. But don't expect me to be the one waiting on you." Then I ended the call, poured another glass of champagne, and smiled. The war for my peace had officially begun. By sunrise, the calm I'd fought for had already begun to splinter. From the deck, I watched a line of SUVs crawl down the private road like an invasion convoy. Doors slammed. Laughter echoed. And just like that, my sanctuary, my quiet, perfect refuge, was colonized. Melissa stepped out first, armed with a clipboard and the kind of confidence that came from years of getting her way. Her sunglasses were oversized, her smile professionally polite. "Eleanor," she called, as if greeting the concierge of a hotel she'd already reviewed online. Behind her came her parents, both in matching resort wear, and a collection of siblings, spouses, and children dragging coolers and inflatable pool toys. 11 people. He hadn't exaggerated. "Brandon said you were thrilled we could all come," she announced, already gesturing toward the house. "We'll just get everyone settled. I know how overwhelming hosting can be at your age." At my age. The word scratched something deep. I smiled anyway. "I'm sure you'll manage." They swept past me with the ease of practiced entitlement, leaving a trail of sand and perfume and noise. Within an hour, my kitchen looked like a buffet line, my refrigerator was rearranged, and someone had replaced my coffee beans with a bag labeled organic decaf. From the hallway, I could hear Melissa directing the operation. Parents in the master, kids upstairs, Kevin and Tara in the den. Brandon said Mom would be comfortable in the guest room. Mom. Not Eleanor. The demotion was complete. I stood in the doorway, watching my life reduced to a vacation rental. My trophies were moved off the shelves for a cleaner aesthetic. My grandmother's vase now held dollar store seashells. Someone even lit one of my candles without asking. When I found Brandon on the patio, I didn't yell. "You might have warned me," I said. He shrugged, eyes on his phone. "You worry too much. They'll be gone before you know it. Try to relax." I studied him, the comfortable arrogance, the casual dismissal. Somewhere along the way, my son had mistaken my generosity for weakness. That night, I lay awake in the guest room beneath a floral quilt that wasn't mine, listening to their laughter downstairs. It sounded like victory. They thought I'd surrendered. But the truth was simpler, sharper. I just started taking notes. The next morning, I woke to the smell of bacon and the sound of strangers arguing about pancake batter. Someone was blasting music from the living room, a song I'd once loved before it became background noise to chaos. My slippers were missing. So was my peace. Downstairs, the kitchen was a battlefield of brunch. Melissa's mother barked orders while her sister filmed a family getaway vlog on her phone. I stood in the doorway, invisible in my own home. The only one who noticed me was Brandon, standing at the counter with a mimosa, smiling like this circus was normal. "Mom, relax," he said. "You're stressing everyone out." "Everyone?" I repeated. "You mean the people who haven't said good morning in 2 days but have no problem using my credit card for grocery deliveries?" His expression hardened. "You're being negative again. Melissa's family just wants to make memories. Maybe you should try being part of them." Something in me shifted. Not a snap, something quieter. A hinge unlocking. I'd spent years learning to pick my battles in business, but family had always been my blind spot. I used to believe love meant tolerance. Now it looked more like survival. "Brandon," I said, "why are you really here?" He blinked. "What do you mean?" "I mean, did you plan this? The flights, the rooms, the takeover?" He gave a little laugh that wasn't humor at all. "You're overthinking. It's just a house. Just a house." 30 years of work, discipline, and lost weekends, all reduced to a convenient backdrop for his vacation content. That night, while they lounged by the pool, I sat in my office surrounded by the things they hadn't yet touched: contracts, property records, my laptop glowing faintly in the dark. My hand hovered over the phone. Old instincts stirred: contingency planning, strategic removal, clean exits. I called my attorney. "Sarah," I said quietly, "remind me, whose name is on the deed?" There was a pause. "Yours alone." "Why?" "Because it's time I reminded everyone else of that." When I hung up, I caught my reflection in the dark window. For the first time in months, I recognized the woman looking back, steady, calculating, done pretending to be powerless. Let them sleep soundly tonight, I thought. Tomorrow, they'll wake up in someone else's house. The storm broke the next evening, though not the kind that shows up on weather radar. It began with a delivery truck pulling into the driveway just as the sun bled into the horizon. 2 men in crisp uniforms unloaded tables, champagne crates, and silver trays. Melissa appeared in the doorway, confused. "What's this?" "Dinner," I said. "You mentioned a party." I decided to make it memorable. Within minutes, the deck was transformed: linen-draped tables, candles flickering, music soft enough to sound expensive. Melissa's family gathered, delighted, though Brandon's eyes narrowed. He knew me well enough to sense danger when it wore pearls. "This looks pricey," he said under his breath. "Oh, it is," I answered. "But don't worry. It's all in the family budget." The guests arrived: Brandon's business associates, some locals, a realtor he'd apparently invited to discuss property opportunities. The arrogance of it was dazzling. I moved through the crowd like a hostess at her own funeral, smiling while they praised his success, his generosity, his vision for the beach house. Every sentence was another shovel of dirt over the mother he'd already buried under ambition. When dinner began, I raised a glass. "Before we eat," I said, "I'd like to thank my son for his leadership. He's taken such initiative, handling guests, managing events, even reaching out to real estate agents on my behalf." A few heads turned. Brandon froze, sensing the trap just before it sprung. "Oh yes," I continued, "apparently he's been very helpful, so much so that a lovely agent called me this morning to confirm our listing price." A ripple of confusion spread across the table. Melissa's fork clattered against her plate. "Brandon, what listing?" He opened his mouth, closed it again. "It's a misunderstanding." I smiled. "I'm sure it is. But just in case anyone's curious, I've confirmed ownership. Sole ownership. Which means any contracts, sales, or events held here without my consent are, how did my attorney put it, legally void. The silence that followed was exquisite. Even the ocean seemed to hold its breath. Brandon's face drained of color, then flushed with something uglier. You don't know what you're doing, he hissed. Oh, I do, I said softly. And tomorrow morning, you'll all remember it. The laughter died. The party ended without music. The storm had officially changed direction. By dawn, the house was too quiet. The kind of quiet that follows exposure. Brandon didn't come down for coffee. Melissa's family packed in uneasy silence, pretending not to feel the shift. Only he stayed, waiting for a conversation that could no longer save him. I found him on the deck, staring at the ocean like it owed him something. The sky was the color of tarnished silver. You humiliated me, he said without turning. No, I replied, you did that yourself. He faced me then, eyes rimmed with exhaustion and something close to fear. You think this ends with your little speech? I'll call a lawyer. I'll challenge the sale. You're not thinking clearly. The word clearly cut deeper than he knew. It wasn't just condescension, it was the weapon he'd been sharpening for months. You mean the sale you tried to initiate behind my back? I asked. The one the real estate agent confirmed? His silence was answer enough. I looked into it, I continued. You forged my name on preliminary documents. You told people I was too confused to handle my own affairs. Brandon's voice cracked. I was trying to protect you. By stealing from me? I said. By calling adult protective services and telling them I was unfit? You turned my independence into a liability because it made you uncomfortable. The wind lifted between us, snapping the edge of the tablecloth left from last night. He looked suddenly smaller, the way children do when they realize their parent won't fix the mess this time. I don't want your money, he said weakly. I just needed control, I finished. You learned that from your father. He used fear to keep power. You use guilt. He flinched like I'd struck him. For a long time, we stood in the steady rush of the tide. Then I said, you need to leave. Today. You can't cut me out, Mom. I'm your son. I nodded. That's the tragedy, isn't it? He waited for softness, a rescue, an old pattern to return. Instead, I handed him a folder, restraining orders, financial records, copies of his messages. These are the facts, I said. And here's the truth, you lost your mother long before you lost this house. He didn't argue again. He just walked away, carrying everything but shame. A week later, the house exhaled. The scent of sunscreen and cheap cologne had faded, replaced by salt and pine and the faint trace of lemon polish. I'd spent the morning walking the shoreline, the tide erasing footprints that weren't mine. When I came back, a delivery van idled in the driveway, a family stepping out, blinking in the sunlight, rental papers in hand. The woman smiled. We wanted to thank you for sharing your home. I smiled back. Take good care of it. It's seen too many ghosts lately. They laughed politely, unaware that I meant it. I watched them carry in their luggage, voices bright and ordinary. No tension. No entitlement. Just people excited to be together. It was strange how peace could sound unfamiliar at first. Inside, the rooms felt wider, lighter. My son's shadow no longer reached across the floor. The silence didn't ache anymore, it breathed. I poured a single glass of wine and stood on the deck, the ocean stretching endless and forgiving. For the first time, I let myself feel the weight of it all, not anger, not even triumph, just the quiet sorrow of loving someone who mistook ownership for love. I'd sent the paperwork through my lawyer the day after Brandon left, the restraining order, the transfer of property management, the final closure of accounts. Everything now ran through an LLC with my name and no one else's. Sarah had said it was over. Legally, yes. Emotionally, it would take longer. That evening, as the sun folded into the sea, I played a voicemail one last time before deleting it. His voice was smaller than I remembered. "Mom, I didn't mean for it to go this far. Maybe someday you'll understand." I didn't. But I forgave him anyway, not as a gift but as a boundary, so he could no longer reach me. The wind shifted, carrying the sound of the new family laughing over dinner. It didn't sting. It sounded like the life I'd meant this place to hold all along. I raised my glass to the horizon. "To freedom," I whispered. "And to the peace you have to fight for." The ocean answered with a slow, endless hush, as if sealing the promise.